Welcome to another episode of Breaking the 20%. I am Elena, CTO of Cocoon Creations, software engineer and geek.
And I am Maria Striano. I'm a tech team builder and I help teams scale.
Cool.
Okay.
So, Mariamu.
Elenamu.
Once upon a time.
Ooh, I like stories that begin like this. Is it going to be a happy ending?
I'm not sure. We'll see. So, in the old days, when a young founder started a company, they will get funding from a venture capital firm. And then after a while, the venture capitalists will bring in adult supervision.
Okay.
So basically, they will say to the young founder, thank you, you are a visionary, you are very innovative, but now the grown-ups need to take control of the company and grow the company.
In that sense, this reminds me something that Konstantinos Psilidis said in another episode.
Yeah. And this is what we saw with Sandy Lerner and Cisco, basically, that once she got the money from a VC, they force her out.
Okay. And I think this happens, correct me if I'm wrong, it's when young founders or first-time founders grow a company, a startup, but they don't have the experience to lead a company that's growing much more, and then they need somebody who has done this before to come and take over.
Okay,
is it the same thing?
It's not as common. We will tell in the story that this is not as common, or it doesn't even happen anymore. But if you go back 20 years, it was very likely once you get money from a VC that they will force you out, or they will bring in a boss above you to run the company.
Okay.
But in the summer of 2004. Everything will change forever. And this thing that is we used to call adult supervision became a thing of the past. And it was great for shareholders and for people that had money or investment in these companies. But it was very bad for culture.
I can see that.
So let me set up the scene and introduce you to the characters of the story. And first we start with a handsome-looking guy. He's not as handsome as Justin Timberlake, but he's quite handsome, and his name is Sean Parker.
Sean Parker?
Yes.
Ooh, I feel like I should know him.
So in the Facebook movie, Justin Timberlake plays Sean Parker. That's why I mentioned him.
And I was about to comment, okay, that's your style, Justin Timberlake. Cool.
No. So Sean Parker co-founded Napster with Sean Fanning in the late 1990s.
We're talking about the real thing, not from the movie.
Yeah. The real Sean Parker. Also, he did it in the movie, but because the movie is supposed to be a real event, but he co-founded Napster. Do you know what Napster is?
No.
Okay, Napster was a peer-to-peer file sharing system.
Okay.
And it was used mostly to download pirated music. So you will have Napster on your computer, you wanted an MP3, like a day later you had one song.
It reminds me a little bit of Piper.
I think they drew inspiration from this story when they did this.
Okay.
It was a cool idea, but the music industry and Metallica sued Napster out of existence. I mean, they destroyed them. And Napster was instrumental because it existed for a very small amount of time. But after that, it became clear that the future, was digital, no more CDs. And then we got iTunes, we got Spotify, and, things changed forever. But Napster didn't survive.
So they got sued, but now after them, everybody shares
then
music.
the idea that, you don't need to buy a CD with 10 songs, that you don't want to have one song, became popular. And then we got iTunes, that you could buy one song for 99 cents. And then after a while, we got Spotify, and, nobody buys CDs anymore.
Yeah.
So after Napster, Sean used his infamy to start a new company called Plaxo, an online email address book. And he went down to raise money from none other than the legendary Sequoia Capital and Sir Michael Moritz, the managing partner of Sequoia Capital.
So at that time, we didn't have Gmail?
Not yet. This is the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay, because you're like, it's so different, right? Like you're saying that he went to raise money about an email address book. And I'm like, oh, is that a thing? Do we even need that?
I think Gmail was 2003, 2004. This is before that.
Okay.
So he gets money from Sequoia Capital, Sir Michael Moritz. And Sir Michael Moritz was, of course, the heir to Don Valentine. And like Don Valentine fired Sandy from Cisco, Moritz fired Elon Musk from PayPal, and he almost fired Larry Page from Google.
Okay, I love how the stories are starting to connect.
Yeah. So, not surprisingly, a couple of years later, he fires Sean Parker from Plaxo.
Okay.
So Sean was very, very pissed. He hated VCs. Mm-hmm. So this is Sean. And I have another character. I won't say hero because, so around the same time in 1998, Travis Kalanick was a 22-year-old co-founder of Scour, Inc., a multimedia search engine and peer-to-peer file sharing service, similar to Napster, but in different company. And to secure funding, Scour approached investor Mike Kolovitz and Ronald Berg. And Berg and Ovitz offered Scour a term sheet. A term sheet is basically this piece of paper that outlines the terms of the deal. And in the term sheet, there was something called a no-shop clause. Basically, what it meant is until we negotiate and we close this deal, you cannot talk with any other VC. So they signed this deal, and then the investor, Ovitz, starts to drag out the negotiations for months and months and months, and the company is running out of money.
Okay.
So the young Travis calls the investor and says to him, you either give us the money now, or we will raise money from another investor.
Reasonable.
Yes. And the investor, Ovitz, sues the company for breaking the no-shop clause, and he ends up getting for more than 50% of the company.
Wow. So what was needed there was, you can have the no-shop clause as long as it doesn't take more than 2 months to close the conversation or the deal, right?
Basically, he took advantage of them to get the company for cheap. He got the company, and because it was the time that peer-to-peer file sharing things for these companies, things started to go sour. Again, they were also sued out of existence. So after Napster, we had things like LimeWare that was very popular and these kind of things. All of them eventually, they had to close down because they were sued.
Okay.
So this is what happens to Scour. And Travis, he's now feels, okay, I like the entrepreneurship thing. So he goes out and he starts a new company called Red Sush. And the company will eventually raise $1.5 million from Mark Cuban.
Who's Mark Cuban?
Mark Cuban is a guy from the Shark Tank, the investor.
I was thinking, I've heard this before, so I must have seen him.
So, So that's, our two heroes. And this is late 90s, early 2000s. And I will fast forward a bit, and I will go to June of 2004. So it's June of 2004, and 4 college friends from Harvard University have decided, instead of getting internships for the summer, to go and rent a house in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley to work on their project they launched back in February. And they rent a house, and the house has a pool, and they install a zip line of the chimney to jump in the pool.
Nice. I would love to be in that house.
And the friends are Dustin Moskovitz, Chris Hughes, Andrew McCollum, and Mark Zuckerberg. And the project is thefacebook.com.
Oh, this is the story for today. Kinda.
Not the whole story.
Okay.
So, and as the legend goes, one day they are walking down the street and they run into Sean Parker, the Napster guy.
Yeah.
So Sean Parker is living in the house of his girlfriend's parents.
Such a surfer.
Yeah, it's not a very good situation to live with the parents of your girlfriend. So when he meets the Facebook team, he asks them if he can come and live with them instead. And Mark says, yes, you can come. So Sean is now, who is like 25, he's a bit older, but he's now living with these college students, and he becomes the mentor for young Mark.
Okay.
So he takes him aside and he explains to him how the game is played. He tells him, you created this amazing thing, but very soon you will need to raise money from investors. Mm-hmm. And the VCs, they will tell you that they love you, you are amazing, and they will give you money. And once you take their money, after a while, they will tell you, okay, we now need to bring in adult supervision, and they will even try to fire you.
By the way, did they use the term adult supervision?
Yes, it was an industry term.
Isn't it a bit patronizing to be like,
yes,
I'm going to be supervised for running my company? I mean, you are kind of supervised. No, you're not supervised. You're criticized from your investors.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you had a good idea, but now the adults need to take over this thing.
Yeah.
And so he tells you, they will fire you, or they will try to fire you. But he says, I can help you because I can show you a way to get their money and still be in charge. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what is this magical recipe that will allow Mark Zuckerberg to, get the money and still be in charge of the company? It's the summer of 2004. So what else is happening around that time in Silicon Valley? Can you try and guess?
2004. Oof, I was still a teenager.
Okay.
It's not a crisis, right? It's not.
No. So Google is going public.
Oh.
Okay. So Google, in their SEC filing, basically before you go public, you have to submit some documents to the authorities. And in that filing, they have created something called dual class shares. So what is this? Basically, there are Class A shares and Class B shares. Mm-hmm. Class A shares will be the ones that will be on the stock market. And every share, one share is one vote. The Class B shares, the only very few privileged people will have, they won't be publicly traded. And every share has 10 votes.
All right.
Okay. So Larry Page and Sergey Brin have enough of those shares that even today they control 51 of the voting shares for Alphabet.
Okay.
So that's the trick. You create these special shares and you only have those shares, and then no investor, can tell you what to do because you have the voting power for yourself.
And this is legal. It's the way you set up your share scheme for the company.
It's even in Cyprus we can have this. It's not illegal, but from the investor perspective, they will say, why should I do this? Why should I give you this power?
It is communicated. It is clear on papers.
Yeah. But the investor, why would they accept to give the founder this power? I'm giving you the money, so I should have the power. Mm-hmm. This was their idea at the time, and this is what they felt. Yeah. I'm the one with the money. I'm the one with the power. So this is what Sean is proposing to Mark to do. Mm-hmm. Now, Sequoia Capital or any other established venture capital firm wouldn't accept this, obviously. Mm-hmm. But Sean knows a guy named Reid Hoffman who made his fortune from PayPal and is now starting a company called LinkedIn.
Okay.
So Reid, who is now a billionaire back then, didn't have enough money to invest, but he knew somebody rich enough and contrarian enough to accept young Mark's terms. Then Don of the PayPal Mafia, Peter Thiel.
Okay.
So Peter Thiel, which is the only episode of Breaking the 20% that we've spent 2 episodes to analyze him. I mean, I cannot explain who he is. Go back, find that episode. But let's say he's contrarian enough to accept this when nobody else will accept this. So they strike this deal with Peter Thiel, and he's going to lead around for $500,000. Reid Hoffman is going to give $37,000, and another guy named Mark Pincus is going to invest another $37,000, and the rest is going to be by Peter Thiel. Now, do you know the other guy, Mark Pincus? Do you know this name?
No.
So a few years later, he starts a company named Zynga that will make a game called Farmville.
Okay.
There is a lot of name dropping in this episode.
Yes, because I'm like, I don't know all these people. But I've heard of them.
Okay, I mean, Reid Hoffman is famous, but Mark Pincus, yes, I saw it. Like, I know this name, and then I Googled it, and it was Zynga Farmville. He's not that famous, but yeah. So this is how it's done. This is how the initial investment in Facebook happens. And the valuation of the company after this investment is $5.5 million, meaning that those that $500,000 bought Peter Thiel and the other two guys 10% of Facebook.
Okay.
But they set it up in a way that Mark Zuckerberg has these Class B shares, and even today he controls like 60% of the voting power.
Wow.
So that's...
So he can decide, basically.
Yeah, nobody can fire him. Nobody can, tell him you are doing something wrong. He has all the power.
Yeah.
So this is how Facebook is set up. And this is the first time that this paradigm of the investor has all the power is flipped and the founder has the power.
Yeah.
With Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. So have you seen the movie?
The which?
The movie about the Facebook?
No, I haven't.
So for those that have seen the movie, in the movie he has this business card that says, "I'm CEO, bitch."
Okay.
So that is a real thing. He had that business card.
From real?
From real. And
I guess when he was very young and stupid.
In the beginning of the company, because he said, I'm CEO. No VC can fire me.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing that we see in the movie is that he goes to a meeting with Sequoia Capital and he's in pajamas and a robe. And he actually did that in the real life.
Wow.
Yes.
I mean, he's like, I am. Nobody can take me from this role. I'm going to do everything that you would piss you off, but still you wouldn't be able to take me out.
Yes. So the point is that Mark Zuckerberg has all the control in the world. Nobody can fire him. And this allows him to bet the company again and again and do things that no professional manager would ever do. And somehow, against all odds, we get Meta, which if you take specific moment in Facebook history and you get an MBA student, they will say, no, that doesn't make sense. But still, somehow he managed, because nobody can tell him what to do, to build this company to the empire that Meta is today.
Yeah, yeah.
So Google goes public. We have the Class B shares. Facebook does the same thing. And then the founders, they all get this idea. This is what we are going to do now. This is how we get money from the VCs. And the VCs doesn't own us.
So Mark, in a way, paved the way.
Yes.
On how to do shares.
So this is how you end adult supervision.
All right.
And without adult supervision, we'll see what happens. So I will go back to Travis Kalanick, the guy from Skyward, that once more, with his second company screwed by VCs, but he somehow managed to sell the company just in time before the economic crisis of 2008, netting personally $2 million. Not the biggest win, but still, $2 million is not bad.
A good capital to begin anything else he wants afterwards.
Yeah. So he gets out, he has some money, And around the same time, Steve Jobs goes on a stage to announce to the world Apple's new product, a phone without a keyboard and a big screen, the iPhone. So just 2 years after the iPhone, a young entrepreneur will realize that the iPhone was a perfect way to start a company that will allow anyone to hail a black cab from anywhere using their phone. The app name will be Uber Cab. Cab, and the entrepreneur name was Garrett Camp. And Garrett, unlike Travis, was a successful entrepreneur. He had founded and sold to eBay a company called Stumble Upon.
Okay.
He took his idea to Travis, but at first Travis didn't want to get involved.
About Uber?
Yes, he didn't want to be involved in Uber. But Garrett kept going back to Travis, and eventually Travis decided, why not?
He's insisting so much. I'm not going to get rid of him. I should join.
Yeah. So after a while, Uber managed to raise their first seed money, and the investors asked Travis to be the CEO. So Travis takes a page out of Mark Zuckerberg's book and has a demand. If he's going to be the CEO, he had to own a larger stake in the company, and it was important that the leader of Uber will have complete say over his company's path forward, which meant he should hold majority voting control.
All right.
So he demands the Class B shares that give him control. So that's the legacy of the Facebook deal, that from that point onward, the founders could demand this, and VCs couldn't say no.
They couldn't. I mean, they could walk away from the deal if they didn't want it.
Yes, they could walk away, but the paradigm has shifted. So it's like, if you don't give me money, I will go to another VC, and that VC will say, okay.
Yeah, and I think for VCs, once they see the opportunity and they believe that this is the right team and setup and timing, it's very hard to walk away. Yeah.
So Uber eventually raised money from very big VCs like Benchmark Capital and Google Ventures and many others. But under Travis, one of the most defining aspects of Uber's culture was its hyper-aggressive, cutthroat nature. Employees were encouraged to go to war with competitors, regulators, and even with each other. Uber headquarters had a literal war room where top executives strategized on how to dominate markets, evade law enforcement, and crush rivals like Lyft.
Nice. Did I understand it?
Yes, they were like, we are at war and we are fighting everybody. We are fighting between each other. We are fighting with the law enforcement that tells us that Uber is, illegal.
So that was at that time when everybody felt that Uber shouldn't exist and it should be illegal and all of that, right? Like the taxi drivers were fighting.
Yeah.
But why were they also fighting between them? You mentioned.
Yeah, because they had this mentality of we are hyper masculine and we are fighting. So that it was a conflict with the law and an internal conflict within the company.
Okay.
Who's going to get the raise? Who's going to get the promotion?
Oh, that kind of environment.
Very, very toxic and competitive. So one of Uber's earliest investors was Bill Gurley, the managing partner of Benchmark Capital. Benchmark Capital is not Sequoia Capital, is not Kleiner Perkins, but in the world of Silicon Valley, it's number 3, let's say.
Okay.
And the story of Uber is detailed in the book Super Pump by journalist Mike Isaac. And the book later became a miniseries. And in both the book and the series, there is a major focus on how Gurley became frustrated not only with Kalanick's reckless corporate spending, but also by the grueling work environment and the toxic misogynistic culture that had developed under Kalanick's leadership. And Gurley kept trying to set Kalanick to the right path, but unlike the investors of the past that had this power, he had no real power over Kalanick.
Okay.
So this is if you see in the past, the investor doesn't like what the founder is doing, they throw him out. This time around, he was trying to fix the company and he had no power to fix the company.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that, the professionals or the adults don't do shady or stupid stuff.
Oh, they absolutely do.
They absolutely do. But I want to tell you a few things that happen at Uber under Kalanick that I feel like no people in their right mind will do. Okay, just to name a few things. Uber created a secret tool called Grainball.
All right.
Okay, which was designed to deceive authorities in cities where Uber was operating illegally.
Ah.
So what they did, they had this version of the app that would look to the profile of the user, the credit card, where they were, the name, and they could compare this with, public records, etc. And they will figure out which of the users were law officers. And if they figure out that you are a law officer, you will see fake ghost cars going, and you will hail an Uber, and a car will never came. So in order for the authorities to actually find Uber, they had to catch them, doing this. But because they had this technology, the authorities will see fake cars and they would never be able to catch them. And the real Uber was operating like nothing was happening.
What do you mean? Like somebody would order an Uber? A lawyer would order an Uber in order to catch them?
No, a police officer will order. Yes, will order an Uber. He will sit there. He will see the car coming. And then he will see the car passing by. And then they will say, pick up. The driver didn't find the passenger at the pickup location. And they were like, what is going on? And they didn't know that they were seeing ghost cars. So they were operating illegally in a city, and the authorities couldn't catch them.
Okay. Wow. Imagine building a business and you're like, I want to run illegally in the countries that don't accept me. And I'm going to find ways to do it so I'm not going to get caught.
They developed technology to evade the law.
Okay. Sounds like an example not to follow.
Yes. Another thing that they had done, they implemented a technique called fingerprinting, which allowed the company to identify and track individual iPhones even after the Uber app was deleted and devices were erased.
I mean, that's very illegal.
Yes. Also, it's a violation of Apple's privacy guidelines.
Yeah, of course. How could they even continue with this?
So to conceal this activity from Apple, Uber geofenced Apple Cupertino headquarters, effectively hiding the offending code from Apple employees. So what they did, they created a geofence around Cupertino, the Apple headquarters. So when we were in that area, the illegal activity was not happening. Once you got out of that range, so Apple couldn't catch them.
Wow.
At first, they managed to get away with it, but eventually an Apple employee that was not in Cupertino noticed, and then Travis Kalanick had to go to Tim Cook and apologize and say, I'm never going to do that again.
As long as you don't find out.
Yes, I think that was a subtext like, yes, you caught me, so I'm apologizing.
Yeah. I'm not going to do something that visible and obvious again. I cannot promise anything else.
So another thing they did. So at some point, Uber got like $250 million investment from Google Ventures.
Okay.
So after a while, though, they decided that it was a good idea to start a self-driving car division, which was something Google was doing also at the time. So what they did, they hired Anthony Lewandowski, a Google engineer, co-founder of the self-driving cars division of Google, who, while leaving from Google, stole thousands of proprietary files and took them with him. He literally downloaded all the research from Google that belonged to Google. He put everything on a hard drive and took the files with him.
It fit in a hard drive?
It was some gigabytes.
Okay. But when you do these things, you can get sued, no?
Yes, of course you can get sued. So Google find out. This led to a massive lawsuit from Google. Lewandowski went to jail, and Uber had to pay Google $250,000 in damages.
Wow. Yeah. So that sounds right.
This is some examples. Like, this is
But he did way more. Like, that's what you want.
This is the shady corporate stuff, because there are a lot more that I will tell you later that have to do with the culture. But like, why? Like, who on their right mind will think to do these things? It's like, if there was a Natalie in the room, will they do these things?
But this is the adult, right? We're not talking about adults anymore. I think we're talking more about ethos.
Yeah, I mean,
and an adult who runs this kind of companies, they should have the minimum requirement of ethos to run this.
But forget the what's called the ethos, or if this is ethical. Why will you do this kind of illegal stuff that will land you in jail?
Maybe he's a journaling junkie. He wants to see if he can get away with it. I mean, other people steal houses. He is trying to steal from businesses.
Why would you go against Google? Why would you guess against Apple? You cannot win this.
By the way, I'm not taking his side. I'm just like, I understand there are very weird people in this world. He's one of them.
So,
surely.
Within this hyper-masculine, culture, women were often seen as obstacles rather than contributors.
I was thinking if we're going to get to any women in this episode.
Yes. And sexism was rampant in Uber, and discrimination was the normal thing.
I mean, we're talking about early 2000s.
This is the first half of 2010, so 2010, 2015.
Okay, 10 years ago.
Yes.
How did you observe that? What evidence do you have?
I will tell you. So eventually, the things that were happening within Uber, what I told you before.
Oh, Uber. Yes, I've heard about this, actually.
Yes.
There are a few articles out that came out from women who left from Uber.
A lot. Okay?
Yeah.
But the point is that in 2017, and I will explain how it happened, a lot of things that were happening internally leaked out, and they were very, very bad. So I'll give you a few examples. In 2013, Uber had already a valuation of $3.5 billion and was already available in 66 cities across 6 continents. So it was time for a party, and there is no better place to throw a party than in Miami.
Of course.
Yes. And this was a work party, so Travis decided to send an email to the employees. And this is an email that went to the whole company and was later leaked to Kara Swisher, a journalist, and she published it. So let me read you this email. The title of the email was Urgent, read this now or else. And there was this subtitle, you better read this or I'll kick your ass.
Ah, great start.
Yes.
I guess he thought it's a joke.
Yes. So
how big was the company at that time?
It had hundreds of employees.
Okay, so we're not talking about a 10-team company that everybody knows each other so well that you can make jokes like this.
It's a huge company at this point. They are in 60 cities across the world.
Maybe he was on something?
I don't know.
When he wrote the email?
So the memo listed a series of things not to do, including vomiting, or receive $2,100 book charge, drug use, and throwing beer kegs off old buildings.
These are the things not to do?
Yes. And near the end of the email, he wrote, do not have sex with another employee unless A, you have asked that person for that privilege and they have responded with an emphatic yes, I will have sex with you, and B, that 2 or more of you do not work in the same chain of commands. Yet that means that Travis will be celibate on this trip. #CEO life, #fuck my life.
Wow. Wow. He had to be explicit about how people would navigate there.
If you have to tell your employees, please don't rape your colleagues, something is very wrong with your company.
Just because this is a company event, you should not rape anybody. outside of the company, even though you are free to do. No, you're not free.
Why?
That sounds fucked up. I mean, he is. He said that.
Yes, it was a
Hashtag.
fuck my life, because I'm not going to have sex with anybody.
Wow.
Wow.
Didn't he have a communications lead, internal communications person to help him write the email? Like most of the CEOs now, especially companies that grow fast.
I don't know in 2013 if they had. Eventually they had a team, and the woman, there were two women, they left the company like running. They said,
pulling out their hair from what they have heard.
They couldn't control him. It was like he will do something stupid, and he will go to them to say, fix this. And they will say to him, but you shouldn't do this thing. And they will say, no, your job is to fix it after I fucked up.
After I send it, figure out how to fix it.
Yes.
But I cannot hold it. I have to send it first.
So in an interview in 2014 with JQ, Travis Kalanick made a controversial remark. So he said that now that I'm rich and famous, all the women come at me, and this is boober.
Oh my God, no. No, this is so bad. I mean, this kind of, okay, I love puns. I absolutely love puns, dad jokes, anything that is going to burn your brain. Burn, I love them. But I love doing them with my friends in a close, circle. In my friend circle, absolutely, I can see this joke fly, no problem. But come on.
It was this journalist was making a profile for him, and he said this to him, like, maybe it was a woman, I don't know if it was a man or a woman journalist. Boober. Come on.
So he didn't know how to contextualize what he's saying based on the audience who is going to listen. He was not
He wasn't afraid of the consequences, because he could do anything and nobody could fire him.
Yeah.
And Uber was growing like crazy. Okay. They were, expanding and expanding and expanding. They were the darling unicorn of Silicon Valley at the time.
Yeah.
So he felt untouchable. He felt, I can do great ball, and I can go against Google or whatever, or steal from Google, and I can say Boober and nobody can touch me.
To be honest, it's a great name, Boober. I mean, the more I think about it, it's very funny, but not in a public, visible interview. You cannot be using that.
So, in 2014, this is another story. During a business trip to Seoul, South Korea, a team including Travis Kalanick, his then girlfriend Gambi Holdsworth, Emil Michael, who was the chief business officer of Uber, and another female employee, and some South Korean Uber managers went out for a night of drinking. Mm-hmm. And the group unknowingly ended up at a karaoke bar where women with number tags were presented for selection as companions.
Okay.
So they went to this karaoke bar, but it was actually, there were female escorts. They didn't know that when they went in.
All right.
But the Uber managers figured out what was going on, and they started, selecting from the women that were available to spend time with them, which made Travis' girlfriend and Gabby and the other female employee very uncomfortable, but they stayed initially to avoid awkwardness.
Yeah.
Kalanick and Michael only sang karaoke and ordered drinks and appeared indifferent as the subordinates engaged with escorts.
Okay.
So, yes, they didn't engage with the escort, but their employees were there, they were doing this, and they were like, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
And months later, the female employee that was with them filed a complaint with HR, but little action was taken.
Yeah.
Now, they went out to this bar, they didn't know what was going on. Travis and Michael didn't actually engage with the escorts. Maybe it wouldn't have been a big deal. Okay.
Yeah, you can not justify it. Well, you can justify it. Let's say, I'm going to use that word to say that those were their values. They think it's okay to do this. They don't see the problems. They are with colleagues.
In comparison with other things, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But then in 2017, the details of this incident began to surface, and the journalists
The specific incident.
And journalists started investigating what happened that night. So, Emil Michael unexpectedly texted Gabby, who by then had broken up with Travis. So at that point, she was Travis' ex-girlfriend. And he had not spoken to her since she had broken up with Travis. So at first he tried to show, how are you okay, etc., etc. And then he steered the conversation to tell her, you remember that night in Seoul? I just wanted to, confirm that if anybody asks you about it, you will say that nothing happened.
Okay. That he didn't engage with anything.
Yes. And she said, he's pulling like a mafia thing on me. Telling me to, we have to get our story straight.
Yeah.
And he was pressuring him to tell him that, nothing happened.
Yeah.
So she started crying. They closed the call. And she contacted the head of communication of Uber. And she told her everything. And after that, because the head of communication went to Emil Michael, he started, sending his girlfriend to her, trying to contact her with, through other Uber female employees, trying to check on her. It's like,
wow.
This is what teenager boys do, actually. Like you send somebody to tell somebody.
Yeah. It shouldn't exist past 18.
So
it's simple.
Yes. Of course, there are other stories about Uber, but the story that everybody remembers and the story that brought down the powerful Travis Kalanick is the story of a 25-year-old side
reliability.
Yes, thank you, Mariamu.
Site reliability, yeah.
Yes, engineer. We'll call this SRE.
SRE.
So that I don't mix the word again. Named Susan Fowler. So let me tell you a bit about Susan. She grew up in rural Arizona, one of the 7 children in a family that was deeply religious. Her parents didn't believe in formal schooling, so she was largely self-taught.
Okay.
And at 18, she decided to go to college. And without a traditional education, that wasn't easy. Because she never went to school, actually.
Yeah.
So she started at a small liberal arts college, but fought her way into the University of Pennsylvania, where she studied physics.
Okay.
So her introduction to programming came through her work in an experimental particle physics laboratory at the University of Pennsylvania. Encouraged by a friend, she applied for a research assistant position in the Atlas experiment group at CERN, despite having no prior experience in electronics or hardware. She first worked on instrumentation, testing transistors for their ability to withstand radiation, before moving on to designing electrical circuits boards for the Atlas detector. And after a year in hardware, Susan transitioned to data analysis, a field that required programming.
Okay.
So she was assigned a project to rewrite an algorithm that analyzed Atlas data, despite never having written a single line of code before.
Wow. And your first line of code is going to be at CERN for Atlas.
Yes. So determined to succeed, she taught herself Python and C++ through free online courses at night. And over time, her programming skills improved, and she became Penn's official representative in the Atlas experiment search for supersymmetric particles, contributing to published research papers.
Nice.
And through this experience, Susan discovered her love for programming, sending her on a path that will eventually lead her to a career in software engineering.
Okay, so she started as a physicist.
Yeah, her degree was in physics, but she was doing a lot of programming at the university, so she transitions to software engineering.
Yeah.
So after graduation, she moved to Silicon Valley, and at first she got a few jobs in smaller startups.
Mm-hmm.
But then in 2013, I didn't write the year. So she landed this dream job at Uber.
In 2013?
I think maybe 14.
So when was she at CERN?
Before.
For a few years?
When she was at the university. I think it was 2015 that she went to Uber.
Imagine if I met her. I was there at 2009. At CERN.
I think at some point you crossed paths, but she was at the University of Pennsylvania. She wasn't actually at CERN. She was working for CERN
remotely
from the University of Pennsylvania.
Because when we approached the years, I'm like, oh, hang on, maybe. And then she started at Uber. All right. From CERN to Uber.
So she graduates. When she was at the university, she was working for CERN. She graduates. She goes to Silicon Valley. She gets some jobs in smaller startups, and eventually she lands this dream job at Uber. Yeah. And at the time that she gets this job, Uber is like on the high rise.
Yes.
So she was very excited because it was a huge opportunity. After the mandatory training, on her first day as an actual engineer, her manager hit on her.
Oh.
So as she later wrote, after the first couple, this is her actual text, okay? After the first couple of weeks of training, I chose to join the team that worked on my area of expertise, and this is where things started getting weird. On my first official day rotating on the team, my new manager sent me a string of messages over company chat. He was in an open relationship, he said, and his girlfriend was having an easy time finding new partners, but he wasn't. He was trying to stay out of trouble at work, he said, but he couldn't help getting in trouble because he was looking for women to have sex with. It was clear that he was trying to get me to have sex with him, and it was so clearly out of line that I immediately took screenshots of these chats, messages, and reported him to HR.
This is on her first day with him, with his team. That's scary. How can he dare do this? On he didn't get any vibes.
No, it was her first day. He just met her, and he's like, I'm trying to find somebody to have sex with me, and I'm having hard time. I mean, imagine this is, you go to work, this is your first day, and your boss, your immediate manager does this to you.
Yeah. No. Just no.
So what happened next will define her experience at Uber. Instead of acting, HR told her that it was the manager's first offense. They said he was a high performer and that they didn't want to punish him.
First offense. I mean, it couldn't be more straight out of line. Like, this is the kind of first offense things that should get somebody out of work immediately.
Susan soon realized that this wasn't an isolated incident. Other women at Uber had similar stories, and in many cases, they were given the same response. This was a first offense, and nothing will be done.
Not with the same person, you mean? With other guys?
Yes.
Wow.
And as Susan continued to speak out, she faced retaliation. She was blocked from projects. Her performance reviews were downgraded. Mm-hmm. And when she tried to transfer teams, she was told that she didn't have permission, even though she had previously been told she could move freely. And by the time she decided to leave Uber, it was clear to her that the HR wasn't broken. It was functioning exactly as Uber intended, to protect the company and its male leaders at all costs.
This is scary. I'm sure it changed by now, right? We're gonna get there.
We are gonna get there. And you are not going to like the answer.
Oh no.
So after leaving Uber, for a while, she wasn't sure if she should make her experience public.
Mm-hmm.
But then she decided that she should. On February 9, 2017, Susan published her now famous blog post titled Reflecting on a Very, Very Strange Year at Uber, detailing her experience at Uber. She described not only the sexual harassment she faced, but also the broader culture of dysfunction, discrimination, and cover-ups within the company.
Okay. Wow. And also brave.
Yes. And
because you're publicly accusing a company, not only individuals, but the company itself.
So basically, she published this post. She thinks that will happen. The post goes viral. And that's when, everybody starts speaking up. And that's how we learn about Greyball, about the Seoul incident, about everything.
Wow.
About the email that... All of this came after this blog post because then, people started speaking up and journalists started investigating. Mm-hmm. And the more they dig up, the more they found. Mm-hmm. And from that blog post, one particular incident that she recounted highlights the gender discrimination within the company. So the engineering organization had promised leather jackets to all to all SREs. I'm not going to try to read this word again. Site
reliability engineers.
Thank you, Maria. So they collected everybody's sizes. However, the 6 women in the group were later informed that no jackets would be ordered for them because there were too few women to justify a separate order. When Fowler questioned the decision, the director responded that providing more expensive jackets for women would be unfair to men as it wouldn't represent equality.
This is equality.
He suggested that if the women wanted jackets, they should find options matching the back order price of the men's jackets.
So they should do the work to find something to substitute for. Oh my God! So I just can't. There is no logic in this argument.
He told her that if you want equality, you have to find a way to get the same price that the men get for the back order.
And they offloaded this problem to the women.
I mean, okay, there are very few women in the group, so obviously the unit price is more expensive. And you don't order for them because it's unfair for the men, because the men jackets costed less.
There's no logic in this.
It's insane.
It's so sad. It's sad.
Again, she reported this to HR. And they told them that you keep complaining and you are the problem.
It doesn't matter what you complain about. Even if what you complain about makes sense, no, because you've done it too many times, it means you're the problem, not the people who are causing the problem.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's totally makes sense to me, yeah.
So she posted this thing, it goes viral, and this is a point that obviously, you also read all the articles about Uber and the culture at Uber. And so what Travis does, he said, okay, I'm going to investigate. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he hires a former Attorney General, Eric Holder.
Okay.
He was the Attorney General for Obama.
Nice.
Okay. So this guy is a guy that, I'm not going to play Travis' game. I'm not going to just make an investigation just to, say, no, everything is good. He actually goes and does his job. And he writes this very big report, like stack of papers. And, it basically exposes everything.
Yes.
And at first, Travis is like, okay, I'm going to just take a few months leave of absence, and then I come back because nobody, even after all this thing came out, they couldn't fire him. Mm-hmm. Nobody could fire him. He had all the power. So he goes for a leave, but he's still on the phone all the time telling the Uber employees what to do. So eventually there is more and more pressure. And by June 2017, everybody is telling him, you cannot continue, you have to resign. Not because, they cannot fire him, but they tell you, if you don't resign, you will kill the company, basically.
Because of the culture?
Because of the culture, okay? He finally resigns and he leaves Uber. And there is a question here. So if there was adult supervision, would any of this happen?
It depends on the adult who would supervise, right?
I don't know the answer, but remember the investor, Bill Gurley, that I told you about in the beginning? So Bill Gurley, and this is a major focus of the book, tried to stop Travis Kalanick, not only in private, but in the boardroom and also in public. So he wrote blog posts, even before Susan Fowler, before everything. He went on stage to South by Southwest and he was sending coded messages, to Travis that, the company is on the wrong path.
Wow.
So he was trying.
So he cared. He wanted.
He was trying to stop you. But this is the thing. He didn't have the power because, the adult supervision was it was not an option anymore for the investors.
Yeah.
And actually, when things came to, Travis had to quit, he had one last demand so that he quit. And the demand was that Gurley had to also quit the board of Uber. So, you see, we come full circle, and this time the entrepreneur takes down the investor.
Oh my God! But in a bad way. This is such a selfish thing to do. It's more like, I'm gonna get you because you caught me.
I'm going down, so you are going down.
This is like movies. It could totally be a movie. Is there a movie about Uber?
There is a series based on the book.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. What's the name of the series?
Super Pump.
I should see this.
Yeah, it's a good series.
Okay. And it's based on true...
It's based on the book there is a book called Super Pump that was written by this journalist.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, how the story ends? Let's see. Susan Fowler went on to write a book, Whistleblower, detailing her experience. So she became an advocate for tech accountability, and in 2020, she joined the New York Times as an opinion editor, contributing. So basically, she became a journalist after all of this.
Wow! All right.
And she wrote also a book, which is it's a very. She talks about her experience at Uber at length, and it's. I was reading this book and I said, no way. It's not, if it was one thing, what happened to her the first day, okay, maybe it was an incident, it just was one time.
Isolated incident.
Yes, but it was again and again and again and again, different version of, these kind of things.
Yeah. Oh my God. Imagine she wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
She had so much material
to write a book.
After
Travis left, Uber tried to rebrand itself. Dara Khosrowshahi, Dara is the name of the CEO, took over as CEO, vowing to fix the company culture.
Is it a woman or a man?
No, he's a man.
Okay.
I think
usually names that end in A, they're women.
He is Indian.
Okay, Dara. Is he the current CEO?
Yes, he is. Mm-hmm. So he made changes and policies were rewritten and, diversity and inclusion became talking points. But Uber still faces lawsuits over workplace issues to this day. And
related to that time?
No, for now.
More recent ones.
So even after all of this, we still get incidents and people coming out or suing the company for this kind of things.
It's interesting because once you have this kind of culture, you don't only need to change the head, you only need to change the people who embrace that problematic, broken culture. So if the CEO left at that time, but they didn't do an analysis throughout the company, an assessment to find who else support that kind of culture and get them out of the company, and you just bring a new head, it's going to take much more time for that head to clean up the body.
They tried, but they obviously they didn't succeed.
Interesting. I'm very interested in organizational changes and how you can bring a change of that scale, especially for cleaning the name or for resetting the culture and the name of the company. Obviously, this seems to be failing, and I'm curious why. I'm curious who were the people who had power, what kind of power to circumvent the circumstances and stay there for longer. Yeah.
By the time Travis left, this was a $15 billion company. It was a massive company, okay?
Yeah.
So they failed. I don't know if they failed because they couldn't change it, because they didn't want to really change it, because the culture of Silicon Valley, it's all like that. So
I don't want to believe that. I don't think all the companies in Silicon Valley,
a lot of them are like that.
Have this sexist but okay, I don't know. If we under the assumption that a good CEO joined who really actually wanted to make this change, then I would say that the next step should be for setting up a competent, strong HR team and communications team in order to reset and restart communicating and setting the right processes and helping people to bring out their problems as soon as they happen in order to get people out. But this is HR team running it. And if the HR is not competent or ethical enough to do this and with the right leadership, then wow.
Okay, so Bill Gurley, the investor, became a billionaire because of his investment in Uber. But in both the book and the series, the end is with him commenting that after forcing Travis to quit, no entrepreneur would ever take money from him, highlighting how far away we are now from the days of adult supervision.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, yes, I managed to take him down in the end, but it's over. No, I cannot invest in anybody anymore. No founder will ever trust me and get money from me. Yeah. And imagine he took down Travis Kalanick.
Yeah. But why did he think about?
Because he says, the entrepreneurs need to trust me that I'm not going to do the same thing to them.
But he did it to a person who was embracing a toxic culture.
Exactly.
So if I was a founder, I would actually want an investor who has ethos and puts boundaries on the way that a business should run.
So, Travis.
Okay.
Travis, after leaving Uber, he started a new company called Cloud Kitchens, a startup specializing in ghost kitchens that provide infrastructure for food delivery services.
Nice.
Isabella Vicenza, one of Cloud Kitchen's earliest employees, she was the first female salesperson for the company, was a top performer and a regular guest of Travis Kalanick's exclusive President Club's dinners.
All right.
These invite-only events at Kalanick's Bel Air home rewarded top salesperson with cocktails, mingling, and chef-prepared dinners.
Mm-hmm.
Vicenza was often praised by Kalanick and seated near him at these gatherings. However, in August 2022, when she arrived at dinner visibly pregnant, Kalanick's attitudes towards her shifted. He distanced himself and barely acknowledged her and asked her to move seats. After that night, she felt ostracized, describing the company cultures as a boys' club.
So before, there was no problem. They were hanging out as normal, as colleagues. And the moment she was pregnant, that it was visibly pregnant, she got, okay.
And in July 2023, just over 6 months after returning from maternity leave, Vicenza was fired. And she has since filed a lawsuit against Travis Kalanick and Cloud Kitchen, alleging wrongful termination and discrimination.
She did right. I mean, I don't know the details, but all right.
So you see, it's a pattern. He's doing again the same thing.
I mean, yeah. It's difficult for people to change their values or the lack of them. it doesn't seem like Travis went through something that would make him change his values. This is who he is, right?
He's a billionaire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not being a billionaire who makes you unethical. It's him having some values since childhood.
No, but even he was forced out of Uber, but he sold all his shares at top price. He made a lot of money out of Uber. So at the end of the day, at the end of the story, he feels like, okay, I was wrong again.
Yeah.
I think that's what he got out of the whole story, that one more time, I was wrong by the investors.
Wow.
So just to finish this, by adopting the Google's dual class share structure, Mark Zuckerberg ensured that he and only he will control his company, no matter how much money investors poured in. Travis Kalanick, shaped by his past betrayals by VCs at Scour and Rescues, embraced the new reality when he took control of Uber, ensuring that no one could force him out. With unchecked authority, Uber became a hyper-aggressive, win-at-all-cost company, a prime example of the move fast and break things ethos that has come to define Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
The culture turned toxic, grey balls, stolen trade secrets, workplace harassment, retaliation, and scandals pile up until the weight of all crushed Kalanick. And he comes back with Clown Kitchen, and the history seems to be repeating itself.
Oh my God. It's very sad. I would stay away from this kind of people.
And my point is, and I don't know the answer, is, okay, he could do all of this and get away with it because there was no adult supervision. So if adult supervision was there, would any of this happen? What do you think?
It depends on the adult. I don't know how I feel about finding an investor who can then decide in the future to push me out from being a founder of a company. That feels strange. But the board of directors should have somehow enough power to say to the founding team, this is not working. Like, the company is growing too much and out of your capability and experience, and it's time to bring someone else. Like, I think there are different ways to pressure a founding team to think about those paths. I wouldn't, without creating an adult supervision model.
The thing is that if you take it from an entirely economical point of view, and you look at Google or Facebook or even Uber, these are all very profitable companies.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you get this culture. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of, but I saw it happening in London, like because I spent many years in high growth scale ups, and I saw founders stepping down from being chief executives, and their role became something different. And it's simply because as the company grew, they didn't have the skills, and they didn't like it. It can either be both, right? They don't have the skills, and they don't like the new role that their role has become. It's different to be CTO in a seed company, seed series, and it's different to be in a Series B company. So you may not enjoy that. Your strengths lie in a different area. And I've seen many CTOs becoming chief architects or even moving into product. It varies from depending on people's passions, right? So I saw that in both scale-ups that I was working in London.
But it's different if you decide that, okay, this doesn't work for me. And it's different when your investors come and say, you are out of here, you are fired.
Yeah, I wouldn't give that power. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah. But on the flip side, when they have all this power and nobody can force them out, what happens?
You never invest in unethical people like this guy.
But how could
how
they know?
can you know at that time? Yeah.
So that's a story.
I'm curious what people think. If you listen to this, let us know. Do you prefer to have an adult supervision if you would start a company? Would you be happy to have an investor maybe taking over your startup in the future? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
but also this story is also about a woman who created a wave of protests, of complaints against a company that nobody was talking about.
Yeah.
And she began that. And I think I love the story also from that angle of that one woman managed to do, even if she didn't plan it.
She didn't plan it. And you know what the sad thing is? After that, she was never again an engineer.
Yeah.
She moved to other things.
And I wonder, though, if she moved to be a journalist. You mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Journalist, because through moments like this, you realize that you have a core value, let's say, of justice, a core value of being respected and every person to feel safe and in their environment, whether it's at home or at work. And when you go through something like that, you may realize that
I'm somebody else.
You care so much about this value that you want to do a job that's going to be around this value. So being a journalist can bring out this kind of stories more often, can influence people, can lobby with the right people in politics. So I can see why she may have shifted. I don't think it's just because she got molested or harassed at work. I hope it's not just that. I think it's always a combination.
I don't know, but I mean, it ends there for her.
Yeah.
At least as, an engineer. So anyway, just to end this episode, we need to thank the people working for the podcast, Sofia Kafkalia and Chrysanthi Dimitriou for the editing. Dasos Konstantinou that does set up the cameras, does the graphics and everything else. Konstantinos Psilidis that does the coordination. Andreas Filachtou, who is the producer of the show. And Black Lemon that hosts us here in the art studio.
Thank you, Elena, for bringing the story.
Thank you, Maria, for being here with me.
And we'll see you, everyone, next time.
Thank you and bye.
Bye.